Hello everyone, this is Shockfactor 22 and this is a little comment. As you guys know, John Cena, I don't know, is he still a face or is he a tweener or is he a heel? Um this past well, yesterday on Raw, um I think he's still a face. Basically cut a promo on The Rock who will be coming next week. And yeah, man, this is pretty cool. I like this version of Cena because he's not really a heel, but he's not really a face either. Like he's kind of a tweener, more leaning towards face than he is a heel. Um, but this is what I had to talk about. The Attitude Era marks. You know, the ones who go, "Oh, wrestling sucks" and all that. You know, the new wrestling nowadays is nothing compared to the Attitude Era. Huh? WCW and WWF are better than WWE. And blah 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 blah. Fucking marks. And this is aimed directly at marks. If people like the Attitude Era but aren't really marks, like the ones who like the Attitude Era but can still like the modern era. Sorry guys, I'm having a bit of popcorn as well, so the people who like the Attitude Era but also like the modern generation, because this is mainly for kids, just like how the 80s was. You guys are awesome. The ones who like the Attitude Era but have learned to become accustomed to the modern era. But to the Attitude Era marks. Wrestling's not always going to be TV-14. We're not going to have The Rock forever. We're not going to have... we don't even have Steve Austin wrestling anymore. Triple H is on his way to retiring. Undertaker's on his way to retiring. Shawn Michaels is done. Edge is done. Jeff Hardy's in TNA. Matt's wrestling in Independent. Almost every single wrestler that was around in the Attitude Era has either died, moved on to the independents, is injured to the point where they can't wrestle, or have retired. And by the way, Ron Simmons, congratulations on being inducted, man. Damn! Anyway, on to the Attitude Era marks. I'm gonna say what I've said before, and I know I'm gonna sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's evolution. Times in wrestling change. Wrestlers get hurt. It's just how wrestling is. People get hurt. People get injured. It's what happens. You know, wrestlers get hurt. Wrestlers get paralyzed. Wrestlers have to retire. It's natural. Wrestlers get hurt. That's why Austin had to retire. Rock retired to do movies. And now he's coming back after 7 years. And everything Cena has said this past Monday, he was talking truth. Because The Rock, yes, he was a megastar. He was a name. But when you, and I'm talking directly to The Rock, if The Rock ever sees this video, if you cared about us so much, why the fuck did you leave? And I know he's playing a character, but a part of me thinks this is the real Dwayne coming out trying to be The Rock again. Your time's up, dude. The only people who care are the marks and the Attitude Era fans and the people who knew you. This generation doesn't know who the fuck The Rock is because you weren't there for 7 years. No one saw you in WWE. No one ever saw you go down to the ring. Nobody saw you perform when you left. Out of 7 years, you've only appeared once. And that was on the 10th anniversary of SmackDown. And you didn't even appear in the building. You called in via satellite. If you really cared about us, you still would have been here. And again, I'm sorry if I'm cutting to Dwayne Johnson, as he prefers to be called. Anyway, back to the Attitude Era. Well, I think I've talked enough about the Attitude Era, Mark, just in like a span of a minute. Just because they can't learn that wrestling isn't going to be the Attitude Era. If you want wrestling that's like the Attitude Era, go watch TNA. But I warn you, its storylines are garbage. Trust me. And it suffers from WCW syndrome. Now, to younger fans and people who don't know what WCW syndrome is, it's basically pushing the older talent, making a huge group, such as Immortal, having somebody who has never run a wrestling company be the president, aka Dixie Carter and Ted Turner when Ted Turner on WCW. You know, the younger guys don't get anything. You know, it's when you know what? I think I've talked enough. Anyway, back to The Rock. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from Team Bring It because you know all the fans in Team Bring It are a bunch of fucking marks who can't let anybody have an opinion if they don't like The Rock. Oh, such as Lufty. You guys remember him, right? The idiot who constantly would not let me be a fan of Cena because every fan of John Cena are little kids. I've seen people, 20-year-olds and older, rise above hate. I've seen people. Kevin Scampoli wears a John Cena shirt when he goes to wrestling shows. All of you wrestling marks and you Cena haters, yeah, you can hate him, but I bet you if Cena had 200 freaking moves in his moveset, you'd still hate him. You'd still find a way. Because we saw him do a monkey flip at Extreme Rules. And everybody's like, ooh, and ah. And then not 10 seconds later, you still suck. You still suck. Really? You can't show a man respect when he tries something different to try to please idiots like you? You're idiots. Attitude Era marks, as usual. Can't learn to let times change. Look at what... Most of the wrestlers that have... We don't have draws. We don't have Brock Lesnar. We don't have Goldberg. We have Hogan, but he's TNA and he ain't wrestling worth shit. We have Ric Flair, but he's in TNA and ain't wrestling worth shit. We have Jeff Hardy who's in TNA. We have RVD who's in TNA. Shane McMahon's running a freaking business over in Japan. Stephanie is the president of talent relations. Triple H is really not really wrestling as much. Undertaker only appears at Manias now. Shawn Michaels is retired. Edge is done. Batista is done. Bradshaw is done. Ron Simmons is done. Chavo Guerrero is wrestling over in Mexico and Japan. Jericho is, of course, a piece of garbage because he's not really being Chris Jericho. He's being a generic heel again. Thanks a lot, WWE. Thanks. Could have done so much with that character and you did nothing. You dropped the ball with Jericho's character again. Anyway. You know, Chris Benoit is dead. Eddie Guerrero is dead. Trish Stratus is done. Lita's finished. She's in a band now. Matt Hardy's wrestling in Independence. Kurt Angle is also in TNA. Oh, Impact Wrestling, just to shut the fucking marks up. It's not wrestling anymore. Wrestling isn't the attitude. It's the Attitude Era is what it is. It's attitude. Because we had wrestlers that were real people. These people who talked and behaved in the 90s, yeah, they were real. CM Punk is also talking truth. He doesn't use a script. He writes his own script, actually. John Cena writes his own script. Randy Orton, I guess, writes his own script, I guess. Wrestling, it's like this, okay? You have the 80s. You have Hulk Hogan. You have Savage, Ultimate Warrior. Their stuff was aimed towards kids. 1990s. You had Bret Hart. You had Steve Austin. You had Shawn Michaels. You had Triple H. You had Lita, Chyna, Trish Stratus, etc., etc., etc. Their stuff, their wrestling, was aimed towards adults. This era is the PG era again. It's back to the 80s. It's meant for kids. I mean, that's how wrestling is going to stay until somebody puts up a challenge to Vince to where he can bump it up. TNA ain't gonna friggin' do it. Because again, they suffer from WCW syndrome. Overpushed old stars. Younger stars don't get any push at all. Bringing up recognized names from WWE, as usual, the same thing that WCW suffered from. Having a big group, one heel stable, such as Immortal. Do you guys see what I'm getting at? I had hope for TNA. Back in 2006, I was a fan. I did not want to have TNA as soon as I found out Vince Russo was coming to TNA after getting fired from WWE because of his bullshit. And WWE, I will admit, suffers from the fact that they humiliate Jim Ross. They push their talent, but they don't push them fast enough to where they're ready for the next generation. But you know, time plays its hand. The roster has always improved. Developmental does suck because the FCW, because they always have them booked like every 2 weeks. So that means that the wrestlers can go to strip clubs in Florida, or can get drunk and get in car accidents and blah 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 blah. I mean, it's what happens. Times change. Wrestling evolves. In fact, I have to say this wrestling is one of the more entertaining because you have a lot of different wrestling moves now as opposed to the 90s. You had shooting star presses, but they were very few and far between in the 90s and early 2000s. You have corkscrew moonsaults. You have so many different moves, which makes it more entertaining. So anyway, guys, this is Shockfactor 22, and I hope you guys understand that I don't hate The Rock. I dislike him, but I don't hate him for him leaving wrestling when he could have been there. To learn that I do hate TNA because of how they treat their roster, because they suffer from WCW syndrome. Okay? Do you guys understand? So yeah, I'm gonna go back to eating my popcorn, and I will see you guys in the near future. Peace. Damn it. Fuck. Damn clicker. I clicked on the right click. Anyway, guys, this is Shockfactor 22, and I'll see y'all later.